Hey Zoom folks, how are y'all doing today? All right. It looks like we've got a couple of friends joining us on Zoom as well. And so we are going to get started here in just a few minutes. We've got a couple more people filtering into the room, so I'm going to let them get settled. And then we will continue on. All right, folks. So we're going to get started and we're going to learn about study skills. For those of you joining us on Zoom, please feel free to follow along. If you have questions, put them in the chat. This is a relatively laid back presentation. You all will find that when I'm presenting, it's easier if you all are talking. So we're going to be talking during this presentation and interacting. Talk, interact. It's much easier for me. I don't like public speaking. It makes me very nervous. So it's easier if you all help share some of that anxiety with me, okay? If you have questions, ask. I'm not gonna get upset if you all ask me the questions that you have. I actually encourage that. So I'm going to share the presentation with the folks on Zoom as well so that you all can follow along. So my name is Holly Grider. I serve as the Assistant Director for First Year Programs with the Center for Student Success. And Success Experts is something that I work with. It's 30 to 45 minutes of us telling you all some skills, but also showing you how to implement some of those skills, right? So how many of you all have current study habits? Raise your hands, it's okay. Yeah, okay, good. How are your current study habits working for you? Pretty bad. Good, okay. So, all right. It's okay if your study habits are not doing what they're supposed to. That's why you're here, right? Because you identify that there's need for growth. Maybe you're required to come here for scholarship reasons, or maybe you're just interested in learning more about study skills. See how you can do better, right? I love talking about study skills. This is something that I learned in my position, and these are some of the strategies that I use in my doctoral classes now. So yes, at any level of education, you can implement these skills. It is never too late. I wish people talked to me about this whenever I was in undergrad, because I probably would have been doing a little bit better than I did in undergrad. I was a first generation college student, y'all. I'm still first generation college student. So please feel free to interact, ask questions. Something doesn't make sense, let me know. I want to make sure that you all are getting the skills that you need. And if something doesn't make sense, ask. This is for you. This session is for you. So before I get completely started, does anyone have any questions yet? No? Anybody from Zoom? Do you all have questions? Great. Okay. So again, my name is Holly, and I love talking about study skills. What you all can expect as of right now is we're going to do some reflection questions. I'm going to get you all thinking. I know everybody's super excited for that. We're going to do some reflections. We're going to talk about Bloom's taxonomy. How many of you have heard of that? Okay, all right. Jump scholars, you will definitely have heard of this before. We're going to tell you about the study cycle. This is a formula for the best way to study. So you're going to have a secret to tell all of your friends later. I figured out the secret to studying. It's really cool. We're going to talk about intense study sessions. I'll give you some active learning strategies. We're going to do a little bit more reflection because it's college. We love to reflect. And then we're going to do a recap. So I want you all to think about some things. what do you all think the difference is between studying and learning? Is there a difference? There's no wrong answers. Yeah.
Studying is reviewing anything that you should learn, and learning is actually becoming information in your life.
Do you want to teach this session?
You actually got very exhausted.
Exactly. So when you are studying, you are reviewing the information that you are trying to learn deeper, to know deeper, right? So studying is the scratching the surface of learning. Learning is how to is knowing when to apply things. So if I were to tell you all that you were going to teach a class tomorrow, how would you prepare differently for that lecture than if you were just going to the lecture? You would study? Okay. Yes, absolutely. You best believe I'm going to study. I'm going to study my tail off. How else would you all study? How else would you all prepare? Would you prepare? Yeah, you would. But how would you do it? Zoom friends, how would you all prepare?
Go over what the class needs to know, or what you want them to know.
Okay, you're going to set objectives. That's amazing. Yes, yes.
I just want to think of something.
Yeah.
Finding any questions that could be asked in the room.
Oh, yes. You're gonna figure out what kind of questions people are gonna have. Some of those little tricky things. How do you apply this information? You're gonna figure out how to answer those questions. Oh, yes. Oh, got chills, y'all. You're doing great. So moving from those reflections, we're going to talk a little bit about Bloom's taxonomy. And I want you all to keep thinking about the conversation we just had. Studying, learning, teaching. And we're going to talk about Bloom's taxonomy. Because Bloom, he was an old guy who talked about the levels of knowing, okay? So the understanding and learning and knowing is like a pyramid. The higher up you go on that pyramid, the deeper you know something, okay? So on the bases of the pyramid, this is your basic. This is you are right here knowing something. But as you get higher up the pyramid, that's when you are truly learning, applying, knowing that topic, concept, whatever the case may be, right? If you notice, it's not not a cone, that's a pyramid as well, but well, it's a cylinder pyramid. It's not a cube, right? You know, it's not completely solid, right? It's a pyramid for a reason. Not everything you learn is going to be in that bottom tier or needs to be in the top level, right? Some things you're just going to have to remember. Some things you're just going to have to come on in. Some things you're just going to have to think about. Things like terms, definitions, dates. You can't apply that and create something new, right? You can't create a new date for something that happened in history class, right? That stuff already happened. You can't recreate, well, you can recreate history, but we don't want to do that, right? So there's some things that you're not going to be able to get into that top tier. You're going to go to the bottom tier. The bottom tier is recalling basic information. Remembering dates, terms, very, very basic things. The next tier of the pyramid is understanding. You're able to describe some things. Maybe you know the color of something, the shape of something. You can identify it. If you're in music class, you know what a quarter note is or a quarter rest, a half note. You can identify what those things look like. So you can understand a little bit. The third tier is you're able to apply that information to different situations. Maybe you know when to use certain rests or certain notes, in a music composition, right? So you're able to apply what you know in different situations. The next tier is to analyze. So you can connect information to other information. Evaluate, you're supporting a decision or a stance, and then you're producing new information. And y'all are like, oh my gosh, Holly, what are you even talking about? All of this stuff is foreign. You're just talking in circles. What does this even look like? Well, now we're going to talk about what it looks like. And you all are going to talk about what it looks like. So basic info. We are recalling this information. Tell me some fruits. A tomato, mangoes, apple, pear. Come on, y'all. Oranges, yes. Strawberries, kiwi, star fruit, dragon fruit, all these, right? Yo, whoa, we are at the basic level of Bloom's taxonomy. You are great. Okay, now we're moving up the pyramid. We're going to describe the concepts. What makes a fruit? What characteristics make a fruit? Seeds. Yeah. Acidity. Yeah, okay. Come on, y'all. What makes a fruit? It grows on trees. Yeah. Would you say, Aaliyah? The color. Okay. Color. Yeah, because you got different kind of apples. You got Granny Smith, Red Delicious, yellow something. Yeah. Okay. Color. Okay. Yes. Okay. We are understanding fruit, y'all. Okay. We're moving up the pyramid again. All right. Are all fruits the same? Why? Different nutrients, different shapes, different sizes, colors. Oh, yes, y'all, you are applying this information. You all are really understanding fruit. Your level of knowing of fruit is just woo. You all are doing good. All right. So now we're going to analyze stuff. What characteristics do fruit in specific categories share? So let's talk about apples. You said skin? Stem. Okay. Shape? Huh? Grow on trees? Taste? Okay. Texture? All right. What about citrus fruit? Tropical fruit? They're all citrus. Okay. 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 They're orange or green, maybe yellow. Okay. All right. We are analyzing the information. We're connecting information to other information, right? We know that not all fruit's the same, but it's still a fruit. So we know that, okay. Now we're going to evaluate. How do we categorize an orange? And why do we categorize it as an orange? Or in that category? Because it's orange. Okay. It's acidic. Okay. But how do we classify the orange? Yeah. What is an orange? What is an orange? It is a fruit. What type of fruit? Citrus. Okay. So it's a citrus. Okay. So we have a citrus fruit. And we know it's citrus because it's acidic. It has seeds, so we know it's a fruit. What else makes a citrus? The taste. Okay, it's probably tangy. Okay. All right, great, guys. Oh, we are evaluating. We have a belief, we have a decision to make, and we know how to justify that decision, right? So, creating. We're going to produce new information. So, what does that look like? Well, you have a fruit. How many of you all have made a pie or banana bread? Yep. Pumpkin pies. Maybe you've made a pumpkin roll. Yeah. Oh, we got a baker in the class. Okay. So being able to go to the store, picking up ingredients, and using that fruit to somehow create a new product. That is the ability to create. You know what the fruit is, you know how the fruit tastes, and you want that taste, maybe that texture in that that dish that you're making. It's a completely new product, but it still is composed of that specific element. That is Bloom's taxonomy. And that's what that looks like. You just went all the way to the very, very top of the pyramid talking about fruit. And it's the same way in your classes. Some things you are just going to go to the bottom tier, maybe the bottom 2 tiers. But in things like your major courses, things, if you're in nursing, some of the math that you use, some of the skills that you develop in those classes, you're going to get to those top tiers because you have to be able to think critically, think on your feet, and innovate, right? What if what if you're a nurse, you're involved in an accident, and the only thing you have are the clothes on you and someone is bleeding? What's going to happen? Well, you're going to see what you have available and you're going to innovate. And that is how we do Bloom's taxonomy. It's just your ability to think differently in different situations. So now when we talk about the study cycle, I'm not going to say that this is my method. It is the method that I use. However, Sandra McGuire, she was a faculty member at LSU. She developed this. She wrote a couple books about it, and this is what I utilize in my classes. So I can tell if I don't use the study cycle versus when I do, because I don't feel prepared for class. How many of you all get to class and you have your blank notes and you're like, okay, I'm going to write down everything the professor says? How many of y'all do that? No? Yeah, okay. Yeah, some of us do. Okay. What if I told you that you should go to class with notes already for that lecture? Mind blown, right? Well, you should. Because the study cycle says that you already know what the class is going to be about. You have a syllabus, right? Well, that syllabus is basically a contract between you and your professor. Your professor is going to talk about things on certain days, and you already know the topics. You already know the reading assignments. You already know the assignments that are due, when they're due, tests, quizzes. They tell you all that stuff right there on that syllabus. And so you go to class and you already have notes because you already know that you're going to go over chapter 7 in biology. So what I'm telling you is that you go to class already with notes, ready to talk about whatever the topic is that day. Because if you're already feeling prepared, you're already knowing just a little bit, well, then you can build and you can go deeper, higher on that level of pyramid, on that level of Bloom's pyramid. So I know it's shocking information, right? It's like, what, Holly, come on. But for real, I do this. So breaking down the study cycle, y'all. The first step, do the reading before class. You're gonna take notes about the readings. If there's articles or study guides or materials posted on Canvas that your professor has already given you, guess what? You are going to post those and you're going to take notes on all of that, because your professor doesn't just put information on Canvas for no reason, right? They want you to read those things. It's not just for fun. So do the reading before class. If you have questions or something doesn't make sense, that's okay. That's normal. take those questions to the lecture. And then when the professor is going over that, they might answer the question, or you can raise your hand and say, hey, I have a question about that. Can you talk a little bit more? Because it didn't make a lot of sense. And guess what? Your professor is going to go, oh, what's your name? I like you. And you always want your professors to know your name and know your name for a good reason. Because come test time, come final grade time, they're going to work with you on things. They may not bump your grades up. I'm not going to tell you that they're going to do that because we have honorable faculty members, but they're going to be more apt to maybe give you a 1 or 2 day extension on an assignment because they know that, you are trying hard. And maybe life happened, because life happens, y'all, right? Sometimes things happen to us. And we tell our professors, hey, this thing happened. Can I please submit this tomorrow instead of today? And if they're like, you know what, Elijah, Jakeem, I know that you all been trying real hard this semester. Yeah, you can submit it tomorrow and it's fine. So always, always, always try during your classes. Take your questions, have that conversation with your professor. And class is going to feel a whole lot more like a conversation because you're engaged and you're actively learning. A lot of you all are going to walk out of this door, and what is the one thing you're going to take from this lecture? Fruit. Yes. Man, that woman had me talking about stinking fruit. Now I'm hungry. What kind of fruit am I going to eat? Exactly. Because why? You were laughing, you were talking, you were engaged. It was silly. Do the same in your other classes, y'all. That's one of the biggest things. And then you find that you're able to focus longer because you're engaged. You're able to focus longer because you're having a conversation and you're not thinking about the fruit that you're going to eat after the study session. And then you're going to go to class after you've previewed. You're going to class, and this means your butt is in the seat, but also that your mind is focused on the lecture and it's not thinking about the fruit that you're going to eat. You're going to be present. You're going to be focused, and you're going to be able to pay attention a lot longer because you kind of already know what's going on. When our brains start to think about other things or how stressed we are, it does that because it's trying to escape the being overwhelmed. It's information overload. How many of you left the lecture just completely exhausted? Man, I need a nap. Yes. Oh, me too. Last night, y'all, class went the full 3 hours and I was ready for a nap, or sleep rather. And so you want to make sure, if you are talking during class, asking questions, you're taking your notes, filling in the blanks that you had from your readings, it's going to feel a lot less exhausting because your brain's able to focus a little bit more. And then within 24 hours of each class, you are going to review the notes from class. Why 24 hours? Because it's fresh on your mind. And so I read a statistic. I believe this is the correct number. If not, I'm sorry. But in this book I recently read, it was 80% of what you learn during that day, you forget. Y'all, that's a lot of forgotten information, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Nobody wants to forget that much information because you're supposed to remember it for the next class. Or for, I don't know, your career, your jobs that you're going to have after graduation. So you're going to do, within 24 hours after each class, review that information. Help that information transfer from your short-term to your long-term memory. Don't lose it, because you're just going to be building upon it. Ask yourself questions about the material. What's still not clear? It's okay if you're still not getting something. That means you can go to your professor's office hours and be like, oh my gosh, I just really don't get this. And then they'll talk to you more about it. It'll help explain it a different way. Rewriting your notes is important because repetition, that's how we learn. Studying is just repetition so that we can learn that information. So then we study, again, repetition. Notes, answers to your questions, organize your notes. Maybe you want to put all of your terms here and then you add on, but then you don't have enough space to add more, so you rewrite them again. It's all good. Organize your notes, whatever makes sense for you. And then also thinking about where you are. If you are hot, you're not going to be thinking about the material. If you're cold, you ain't be thinking about the material. If you're easily distracted, like me, you're not thinking about anything but what is going on outside in that hallway, because that's what I'm thinking about. And I'm sitting here thinking, man, Holly, why did we not close the door? Because we are going to get distracted. Yeah, yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate you. So see, we get distracted super easy. We lose our train of thought. We forget where we are. So if you're easily distracted, shut your door. Find a place in the library to study. Find a place on campus where you can study. If Netflix or Hulu or whatever streaming service you prefer is distracting for you, go somewhere where you don't have access to it. Yes.
It's actually kind of backwards for me. I have a comfort movie, I guess, whenever
Yeah.
whenever I come home, I watch Zombieland.
Okay.
Since I've seen it like a million times already, I just use it as like background noise.
See, and you already know. It helps you focus, right? Location. If you're not able to access that movie, you're not going to be able to focus, are you? No. So you have to be in a place where you focus. You're going to teach this session next. You watch. And then you're going to assess. Did you accomplish goals that you set during your intense study session that we're to talk about in here second? The biggest question, if a peer missed class, would you hand over your notes? Why not? Okay. Well, what if it was like, yeah, what if it was legit? Like, what if they actually were super sick? Okay. Okay. All right. So we got some accountability partners in here. Okay. So let's assume, give this individual the benefit of the doubt. They were really sick. They actually had a doctor's appointment. Like, doctor was like, no, you cannot go to class. You got a fever. And so they're like, man, I missed class. Can I please, see your notes? Are they going to know what class was about looking at your notes? No? How come?
Because I only jotted down the most important stuff.
Okay.
I gotta go back and read.
Okay. Okay. They got to go back and read. They got to use that study cycle, right? Okay.
I know, look, the things I use, like the way I study, like the way I was
Mhm.
in middle school, is I know what information like my brain will retain. I
Mhm.
know what like I need to write down for later. So I might one and then more have another note until chapter 2 or 3.
Okay.
So now they just-
What works for me is like,
Okay.
like, when I do my notes, if I do notes, I don't like doing notes. I have a different for each class. English, I don't like notes for that class.
Mm-hmm.
My introduction to ocean science, I print off the PowerPoint slides and they have it to the slides right here and I write my notes beside it.
Mm-hmm.
And my communications classes, I do all those notes and then I go back and then connect them to something else that doesn't pertain to that class.
Okay. So you've got a system that works. You're really going to be teaching the session soon. So you want to make sure that you're finding a way that you can remember what happened in class, because maybe if you don't take notes, you can give that person a rundown of what class was about. You always want to make sure that you know what class was about so that if someone else needs to know, you've got it, but also so that you can remember what class was about. So that when you have another course that needs that same information, you can build upon it. And then could you teach that to someone else? So let's say a parent, a sibling, a friend. Could you teach that concept to them? Would they understand it? If the answer is no, you probably need to study a little bit more. Now, I know we're running short on time, so we're going to go through this quick. If you have questions, ask. Same to you, Zoom friends. If you have questions, ask. Intense study session, exactly what it sounds like. It goes along with your ability to focus. So the time constraints are on here for a reason. You want to make sure that you're getting a quality study session and not quantity, because, you know, studying for 4 hours at a time is exhausting to your brain and to any human being, because that's a lot of reading and looking at things. So you want to make sure that you are operating in your specific time constraints. So 1 to 2 minutes, you're going to set a goal. What is it you're going to accomplish during the study session? Is it going to be, I'm going to outline a chapter. I'm going to define make a list of a term list, whatever the case may be, set your goal. Then for 30 to 50 minutes, you're going to study with focus and eliminate all distractions. So 30 minutes if you are not feeling well, if the concept is hard for you. Some of us don't have the ability to focus on science and math, things that are really difficult, English sometimes. If something is not easy for you, if it is something that you struggle with, don't sit with it for a long period of time, because you're going to check out. Your brain is going to shut down. 50 minutes if you're feeling great, if you're interested about the topic, or if it's easy for you to understand. 30 to 50 minutes, no more than that. After that, 10 to 15 minutes, you're going to reward yourself. You are going to step away from the study space, the study area, give your brain a chance to reset, disengage from the information, and come back to it. 5 minutes after for 5 minutes, review what you did. Did you accomplish your goal that you set? How can you do better next time? Or if you accomplished it, what did you learn in that 30 to 50 minutes? Active learning strategies, books or slides. Like you were saying, you print out the slides before a class, you take notes on the slides as they're being talked about. That's wonderful. Anything that your professor provides ahead of time, look over, get familiar with. You don't have to read things word for word. You can scan read and get a gist of what the article or the information is talking about. Again, we want to make sure we're easing in information and not just diving into the deep end. Considering your location, if you're sitting in the front of class, it does help visual learners because you can't see what's going on behind you. I'm always going to sit in the front of class, not because I'm trying to be cozy with the professor or, you know, be the teacher's pet. It's just so that I'm not worried about the person behind me on Facebook and then thinking, well, why am I not on Facebook? Well, man, that's a good looking recipe. I wish they would wonder if I can read what that recipe is that they're looking at. I'm looking at everything else, and then I'm getting mad at these people for being distracted. And I'm not mad at myself because I'm distracted looking at the distracted person. And it becomes this whole cycle. And then by the end of class, I've learned absolutely nothing, and I've just ended up in a bad mood. So I avoid all of that by sitting in the front. Notes. When you have notes ahead of time, listen for answers, fill in gaps. You want to make sure that you ease yourself into that stuff. Write your information, try not to type, because most of the time what happens, we can usually type without looking at the keyboard and you're not actually registering what you're writing. So if you're actually writing it, you have to put a little bit more effort and concentration into that. Taking pictures of slides, y'all, I've done this before. How many of you all have taken pictures of slides? How many of you have gone back and reviewed that slide after you've taken a picture? One person, 2 people. Okay. We take pictures, it's fine, but you're not gonna review it later. Unless you're like, oh man, I needed this because I knew there was a lot of information on it. I need to rewrite it. If you take the picture, rewrite the information when you have the time later. And then some people find study groups are helpful. Peers can help explain different things to you that your professor may not have been able to explain well. They can help fill in gaps. Maybe they heard something that you didn't. They can provide that for you. And also built-in accountability. You know, folks here are like, if you're not missing, I ain't giving you my notes if you missed class for a not valid reason. So, you know, you want to make sure that you have the accountability because sometimes it is so easy to just stay in bed and not go to class. Some reflections. I want you all to think about these things. We don't have to answer out loud because like I said, we're running out of time. But I just want you all to think about things. What are some methods that you found helpful? What are some things that you do now that you probably need to rethink? And then how can you use this, the study cycle, Bloom's taxonomy, to do better in your classes? If you cram for tests, just stop. That's not going to be effective. You're going to get to the test and you're going to completely blank. Cramming is not helpful. It's just going to exhaust you, your brain, and when the time comes to regurgitate that information, it's going to just shut off. Does anyone have any questions? No? All right. Well, folks, I figured I would have some paper up here and I do not, except for, I do have these. They're usually pink. Okay, great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up this Word document. And if you all wouldn't mind just putting your name and your ID numbers. Yeah, that would be helpful.